All right. It is Tuesday. We're back. We're better than ever. Jamal, just kind of hang out for a little bit because we don't officially start until we got about 30 people hanging out.
Okay.
And then it's official, and I'll bring you in, and I'll introduce you to everybody. Everyone's already excited that you're here, so that's
Are they
good.
now?
Yeah. Our first question was people were wondering where you're at, so they know you're here, and I'll give you the full skinny once we officially begin. And by request, I have to do the theme song today.
Do you think?
Yeah. Well, I've been suffering a little bit of a sinus thing, so my voice is a little shot.
Oh, dude.
And I'm not a great
Your
singer.
river. Wow.
You know. I either have an average singing voice or a below average singing voice. So
I hear you.
I really can't,
I'm hearing a lot of wine.
Yeah.
You want some cheese without all that wine?
I would love some cheese, man. I would love some cheese with that wine. But all I got is a Kurt Vonnegut coffee mug. And there's not wine in here. Maybe the show would be different if there was.
That would be a hell of a show, man. Tequila. I've always heard tequila.
Well, instead of Get Your News On with Ron, it would be Get Your Booze On with Ron.
Well, it's even more interesting if you don't tell them that tequila is in the cup.
Yeah.
Who used to say that? They used to say there's tequila in this cup or something like that. And at some point you'd be like, is there tequila in the cup?
You know, me and tequila, we've always had our struggles. And this weekend we had a pretty big struggle. Tequila and I. Tequila's like, Ron, we're just not copacetic together. We're not. You divorced Jaeger years ago. Maybe it's time to divorce me too. And I'm like, yeah, but tequila, everyone pressures and they're like, sorry, Ron, we don't dig you.
We're not feeling it.
Tequila's not my friend. I have new glasses, everybody. By the way, these are new glasses. And we are at 26, so we are about to begin here very soon. And then I'll bring Jamal in, and we're going to have a good old time today because it's primary day here in California. You guys don't go until what? It's the 24th, yeah? Is that right?
The Democratic primaries in Virginia?
New York.
Oh, I'm not in New York. I'm in Virginia.
Oh, I thought you said you lived in New York. Okay.
No. I said I went to the Left Forum in New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I went to the Left Forum in New York. They had it in New York. They're going to have one apparently in on the West Coast coming up, I think, in a few months. But no, I don't. I used to live in New York. I went there just to visit, just to see the forum.
All right. Well, guys, we have officially reached 30. We are over 30. So the show has officially begun. I'm going to do the theme song. Then I'm going to give an introduction to Jamal. Full disclaimer, my voice is a little shot. I'm suffering from some sinuses. But we're going to plow through this because it was via request. I've been a little lax on the theme song. So get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? Getting our news on today. All right. There we go. Plowed through it. Voice is a little shot. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. And who do I have with me today? I have Jamal Thomas, host of the Progressive Soapbox. Jamal, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. What's going on, Ron?
Oh, just rocking, doing my thing. It is primary day here in California. So I'm going to go out and vote right after this.
Is there any particular person who you're looking for on the primaries?
I can't wait to go out and vote for Gail McLaughlin. I think she is wonderful. I think she is a fantastic progressive. She is the type of leader that we need. She is the type of leader that I think can really get progressive change done because she's done it. And she's done it the right way. She's done it by mobilizing her neighborhoods. She beat big oil in her city of Richmond. She really laid the groundwork, dude. I mean, here in Pasadena, where I live, I'm trying to get municipal internet to my community. That's something I'm legit trying to do. And I'm trying to build an alliance the same way she did. I mean, when she was on this show, she really broke it down for us, how she accomplished what she accomplished. And I'm like, okay, I got to go duplicate that in Pasadena. And I'm going to have hopefully some announcements soon, some people I know that are going to be running for office, some people that are going to help us with the cause on the business end and on the tech end to get some real proposals in there and get it on the ballot. So, yeah, I guess I'm pretty stoked to cast a ballot for Gal McLaughlin. I'm pretty stoked to, you know, there's a few people that I can't vote for them because I'm not in their district, but I'm real excited to see what they're going to do, and I really hope they advance. Kenneth Mejia, I think, has a really good shot of advancing. He's great.
It's a Green Party, right?
Green Party guy, another Green Party, Angelica Dueñas, both have been on the show. Angelica recently got the endorsement from our revolution, and I think that might be enough to push her over the edge and to advance in this thing. I don't live in either of their districts personally, so I can't vote for either one of them. But you know, I've endorsed both of them, and I really hope anybody in their districts goes out and votes for them. And even though I cannot, I'm excited to see what they do. So yeah, there's some cool stuff on the ballot this primary season.
I always get excited during primaries. Even more so when it's somebody who is like, I want to see that person win. You know what I mean? Or even more so when it's more like the person who you want has chances. What are the chances for McLaughlin? I've been following her. The Richmond Progressive, those are the guys who went after oil in their particular county. They created the Richmond Progressive Association. Yeah. That's amazing. There was a speech about that. I think it was, or a lecture. I think it was last year at one of the other forums where they were talking about the RPA. So that's cool.
I mean, I think she's got a good shot. I really do. And where you're at in Virginia, there's been some exciting things boiling. I mean, you had Lee Carter.
Lee Carter.
You had a few DSA endorsed folks making some waves.
Did you see them holding up? There was a thing in Richmond where not Richmond, but in arguing for workers' rights, like unabashedly arguing for workers' rights. And one of the Democrats here holds up a sign of a Russian sickle behind his head as he's making this. Man,
I saw that.
Are you kidding me? And the sad part about it is he's making this joke while he's arguing for workers' rights, which kind of gives you this idea of, if he's arguing for workers' rights and you're saying that this guy's a commie because this guy's modest workers' rights, what does it make you? What does it make you?
Yeah, and you know, that's really courageous doing it behind his back.
Yeah.
Very typical corporate Democrat of you to go ahead and do it behind his back. They wouldn't do it to his face. You know why they wouldn't do it to his face, Jamal? 2 reasons. First of all, Lee Carter was a freaking Marine. All right. Yeah. Lee Carter was a Marine. That's rule number one. That's reason number one. Reason number two, corporate Democrat, they can't argue with you on policy because they got nothing. They're like, well, here's my idea. Do you have a better idea? No, I have no idea. My platform is I'm not the Republicans. The Republicans are awful. We're not that. Well, what are you? Nothing, but we're not that. Well, Lee Carter, he's something. So they got nothing to fight something.
I don't think they realize how sad that is. I've watched these news stories where these guys go out and their response to this stuff is to attack either Jill Stein, to attack Bernie Sanders, or to attack Comey and Trump. Going so far as to say the problem is democracy itself. Like, the problem is representative government. The problem is not that they couldn't put up a candidate that could win. The problem is democracy itself. I mean, it's like these group of Republicans are embarrassing in the way, like these guys are knuckle draggers.
Yeah.
And as rabid as this right-wing bunch of Republicans are, people chose Trump, and people chose 1,100 of them over the Democrats. That's sad. And Democrats just double down. You just keep it moving as if nothing is taking place.
Well, you know what I love to say? I love to say that it's funny how the people that love to say every 2 seconds, Russia hijacked our democracy, are the same people that hate others for participating in it.
Yeah.
That's like, Russia hijacked our democracy. the democracy that we don't feel anybody to the left of us has the right to participate in. That's the democracy we're referring to. Are you to our left? You have no right to participate in this. But we got to save it from Russia. Oh, and by the way, shut the fuck up and unite with us and vote with us. Otherwise, you're the problem. We don't want to hear your ideas. If you say your ideas, we're going to tell you to shut the fuck up. Literally tell you to shut the fuck up. But get behind us or you're the problem. And you better save this democracy that we don't think you have the right to participate in. What a great sales pitch. Man, sign me up for that. Holy shit.
Fuck up and vote for us.
Yeah, shut the fuck up and get behind us. Help save this democracy that we don't think you belong in. That should be the Democrats' new slogan.
An interview where I think it was Jeff Weaver was having a conversation on C-SPAN. And Jeff Weaver has just wrote a book called How Bernie Sanders Won. And, the guy's asking him questions and he's allowing callers to call in. And the Hillary supporters, oh, man, it is priceless. It is utterly priceless. One was like, I don't think Bernie Sanders should have been able to run in our election. And Bernie Sanders was wrong for getting into the race. Hillary Clinton paid her dues. And it's like, Jeff Weaver kind of made this point. I don't think our elections are based on who you pay, if that makes sense. Like, it's not based on whether you pay your dues. It's based on what the public wants. Hillary Clinton, maybe the most qualified, whatever, in physical matter reality. But wait. She couldn't be the reality show host.
Wait, I love that argument. And I'm not saying you're making the argument. I know you're quoting somebody else, but
I'm being sarcastic. I'm being grossly sarcastic.
No, I've always loved that. She was the most qualified. Like, what is that? That just meant she's been around the longest. And when she's been on the wrong side of things, pretty much always. Biggest vote of her career, the Iraq War. Did she get that one right? No. Patriot Act. Did she get that one right? No. Healthcare. At one point in the 90s, she was pretty good on that. Then she got a big check from Big Pharma and she changed her tune big time. How has she been on the right side of things? How is she the most qualified? It does not add up to me. We got some super chats already. Oh, first of all, did I vote yet? No, I did not vote yet. I'm going to vote right after this. Are you going to Johnny Marr tonight? Went to New York City show. I did not know Johnny Marr was in town tonight, which is embarrassing. I'll tell you what, I've been living in Los Angeles for 2 years. And one of the things that, and I hope I don't come off as like, LA is so great when I say this, but like, there's just so much going on in Los Angeles that sometimes you just miss stuff because you can only check so much and you have, your own lane to worry about, your own shows, your own work. And then you just didn't know Johnny Marr was in town. So thank you for telling me about it. I would love to catch the show. I've seen Johnny Marr a couple years ago. I went and saw Johnny Marr. It was fantastic. I'd rather see Johnny again than Morrissey, to tell you the truth. Even though Johnny's voice is not the greatest, I actually wish he would just hire somebody to sing those songs. But it's worth seeing. I mean, his band just tears it up. And when you hear certain Smith songs, when it's Johnny Marr playing them, you realize those are frickin' Johnny Marr. That's Johnny Marr's music. I mean, Morrissey's band, and I enjoy Morrissey solo, I really do. But Morrissey's band, they have 3 guitar players. And they can't touch some of Johnny Marr's parts that Johnny could do by himself. I hate to talk in superlatives, but I think the argument could easily be made. Johnny Marr is the most underrated guitarist in all of rock and roll. I think he's incredible, and it really says something that 3 guitar players hired by Morrissey. So these are the best guitarists that are also willing to be vegan. They can't match Johnny Marr's parts. Anyway, I don't know if you're a Smith's Morrissey guy, Jamal. You might just be like, what the hell is he talking about?
No. Morrissey, you're talking about Jim Morrison, right? You said Morrissey. Okay, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm thinking of Morrison in my head, but you're not talking about Morrison. Yeah, you lost me on this one. I like all sorts of music, but I don't know the specifics of these 2.
Dude, I'll send you some stuff, man. You might dig the Smiths. You might like it. But yeah, we got some music nuts on this show, including myself. So sometimes we get into some music chat, and also the other thing is sometimes on Mondays we do a Music Monday, where all news is still welcome, but music kind of gets a little bit of a priority.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, we do a Music Monday chat occasionally when we can. And actually, guys, since we're on the topic, we might have some exciting guests to look forward to in that regard. I'm just going to leave it there, but I've been sending some emails out. We might have some exciting surprises on Music Monday coming up for those of you that are into the music thing. Watson, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Every person wanted by a majority in this system will be cheated until everyone stands together in the streets. Fair enough. Hope you have 2 hours for this stream. We do not, but I appreciate that enthusiasm, Kim. Jamal can talk, and I love it. I can listen to you guys all day. Oh, Kim, that's very sweet of you.
Yeah, that's nice.
And maybe someday we will be able to do that. But
yeah, today's just weird. Door is coming on at 2:30. So I had this other appointment. It was kind of both of these kind of ended up at the same time. So, but otherwise, yeah, I would. I'm a chatterbox, as these people know. So
who do you got coming on?
Door is coming on.
Never heard of him. No, that's awesome, man.
Random guy, I found him on the streets where I was like, "Hey, could you come on the show?"
Nice.
You know, I have to be honest. That I'm loving the Music Monday idea. I may steal that. I may turn it into a Star Trek Monday or something like that.
Hey, yeah. I mean, we all got our things we nerd out about, and I mean, I feel like we gotta stay in our nerd corners. You know, it's important because then you meet like-minded people. All right, so we got some articles coming here. And Jamal, go ahead and talk for a second because I need a tissue and don't have one in my pocket.
Go for it.
So I'm going to be right back.
So, Music Monday. So I think I'm going to steal the Star Trek something. Oftentimes when I'm doing my show, I tend to bring up these allegories from Star Trek. People are like, how in the hell did you pull this bit of information from Star Trek? Personally, I think that stuff goes in line with these kind of lefty values. The left always talks about having a new world. Star Trek's a new world. It's this idea of rational human beings. So I think that would be badass to have something like that. Khan! Khan! Tim Flowbuck. That's one of the best episodes. Gardner, the other day, he brought up, who was it? Riker and Worf getting the hell beat out of him by this being that had a beast and that was giving them super strength and everything else. I'm geeking out.
Yeah. Well, what were you were talking about the Music Monday thing? I were you saying
it and turning it into a Star Trek something.
You should do a Star Trek Monday, man. You know what? You can come on Music Monday with me, and then you'll be like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. And then I'll go on your Star Trek Monday, and I'll be like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. And it'll be like, I mean, I know Star Trek. I know some of the like old school Star Trek. Like my mom used to show that to me when I was a kid, and I loved it. Like the original TV show. So
what is Captain Kirk's middle name?
It starts with a T, right? It's James T. Kirk. So Tom. I don't know.
Oh,
did I get it right?
Tiberius.
Oh, okay.
Tiberius. Oh, geek card.
Hey, at least I had the letter.
That is such an odd, like, it's a weird thing because it's very rare that people know what that is. They always just call him James T. Kirk.
Yeah, well, I knew that part. I knew the James T. Kirk part, but I didn't remember the exact middle name. Did you like the newer movies, like the J.J. Abrams thing, what he did with him?
Oh, this is going to sound weird. When I first initially no, because I felt like they missed the point. Like they fundamentally missed the point. There's a guy who's on YouTube that I initially started to like, then I started to dislike, who Star Trek lore or sci-fi lore, whatever it's called. They missed the point of the original series. Like the Earth was supposed to be embodied by the Starship Enterprise. You had all of these different races. Keep in mind, this is like during the 50s and 60s. They had a Russian on the ship. They had a black woman on the ship. The first kiss between an interracial couple was James T. Kirk kissing Uhura. I mean, this was supposed to be embodied Earth. The complications that these things or that people went into, these moral ambiguities and all these other things, it was supposed to be complicated, and it wasn't necessarily supposed to be this kind of, we're good, they're bad in a way that the new series is. The new series is just, sex, violence, blowing shit up, and space terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this: if the first one was this kind of expansive humanism, this idea of going out into the galaxy and trying to meet new cultures, this kind of cosmopolitanism from the standpoint of space, and you can make an honest case that says, well, the second one is somewhat of a reaction to that, meaning the space terrorism. You reached out and people pushed back. If you look at it through that lens, okay. It also took me a little bit to. This sounds odd. This is a slight tangent, but it'll make sense. There's a channel called Comic Historian, and they get into these alternate reality timelines for comic books. Once you start accepting that there is no real timeline per se, the timeline that we go with Star Trek is the one that's in our heads. But ultimately, from a real reality standpoint, there's really no bias. You know, if a hurricane takes place or if a hurricane doesn't, ultimately it's not right or wrong. It just is. Same thing with those timelines. Once you look at it from that path, then you say, okay, this is a darker timeline. It grows on you. It grows on you. And not to mention, do you remember, I don't know if you remember this, when Spock died in the first series, not the reboot.
Well, I remember it in the movies.
Right, when Spock died. Do you remember the pain that was associated with Spock died? I would imagine people in that theater crying and weeping. Spock holding his hand up.
Yeah. No, that was...
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so that was intense.
We got some articles here. We got to move on. But
sorry.
The lesson to everybody watching at home, the moral of the story is that if you're a big nerd about music and or Star Trek, you too can be a grown adult streaming from your bedroom someday. You too, take a note from me and Jamal. It's good to have goals. All right. So we got some stuff going on here. So this happened. This is from Tim. And I just gave this a Get Your News On with Ron retweet for everybody following. If Chelsea Manning had been home when police broke into her home for a wellness check, that's the title of this article. It's from Kevin Dastolia, who is a pretty good writer. I like Kevin's work. The Montgomery County Police Department in Bethesda, Maryland, conducted what they called a, quote, wellness or welfare check and broke into Chelsea Manning's home with guns drawn.
What?
Wow.
Are you
okay,
serious?
That sounds like a typical wellness check to me. That's just a,
that can't be okay? Real. That's a real story.
Jamal, you okay? Are you feeling good? I'm just checking on you.
I can't believe that's a place. That's serious.
I'm worried about you. I'm worried. You okay? You feeling good? Sounds like a wellness check, right? That's guns drawn. Wow.
I can't believe that took place.
All right, so let's see what else happened here. Fortunately, Manning was not home, or else an encounter may have ended in death. Yeah. You have a military background. You probably have a little bit of PTSD floating around, and police just break into your home with guns drawn. Yeah, I can't imagine how that wouldn't end well.
Manning was tortured when they had him in prison. Who knows the psychology of the person after they've been through torture and everything else? When somebody breaks into your house with guns, that's amazing. Like that's massive outrage.
They tortured her for years.
Wellness check?
Yeah, a wellness check.
Makes no sense.
All right, so fortunately, Manning was not home. A treatment advocacy center, people with untreated mental illness, Manning has struggled and continues to struggle with mental health. She has had better access to mental health treatment since leaving prison.
Manning's running for office,
why did they enter? I believe she is, yes. Officers entered her home with guns drawn. A fourth officer pointed a taser, but Manning was not home. She was not even in the United States. A friend told The Intercept, if she had been home, she would be dead. What happens if police decide to conduct another, quote, wellness check and she is home this time?
This is dramatically problematic, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. Why were they there? That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, why did they a wellness check, Ron? You don't believe them when they say a wellness check?
I don't. Well, what was their cause for a, quote, wellness check?
I don't know. I think, look, I'm cynical. Just looking at politics has made me somewhat cynical in the way I look at this stuff. Oftentimes, I think they use this stuff as pretext. It's like, I give an example. It's chemical strike fires. No one asks the question, wait a minute, did they really actually do this chemical strike? They just struck, we're just going to bomb. We don't necessarily care whether they do it or not. When stuff like that happens, I often think to myself, if you don't care about having an investigation, then the investigation wasn't the point. You just wanted to kind of jump to the next step. This is kind of similar. They use the stuff as a pretext. I don't know if you remember this. Erdogan, they find out that Erdogan is planning an attack in Syria. And they bring up this thing of, well, wait a minute. How are we going to come up with a reason for this? He says, oh, don't worry about the reason. We'll use a Al-Qaeda framework in order to attack. It's essentially a false flag attack in Syria. When this got out, Erdogan shut the internet down, comes out and said, it's villainous what these people are doing. Essentially releasing information showing that they was talking about a false flag attack in Syria using a pretext of something else. And in that taped conversation, given the pretext. They use this stuff. All governments do this, and police departments are the same way. I am more so curious about what their original intent was, because guns drawing wellness check seems insane to me.
Yeah, well, all right, so here's a little more here. Allegedly, she tweeted a photo in May that showed her standing on a window ledge. I had not heard about this, but apparently she tweeted that photo. She's standing on a window ledge. It came after a tweet that said, "I'm not cut out for this world. I tried adapting to this world out here, but I failed you. I couldn't do this anymore." They were deleted 10 minutes later, and friends indicated they were trying to help her. According to The Intercept, her friends are in contact with her, but she needs space to heal. So I guess this is in response to that, and they thought, you know, we'll just break into her home with guns drawn. That's sure to help her.
Is there a better way of doing that than using guns? I guess that's what I'm getting at. Like
yeah,
this
not
level
breaking
of
into
escalation.
someone's home. Not breaking into someone's home. And,
knocking.
Knocking on the door. And I understand that if you believe somebody is a true imminent danger to themselves, you may need to get to that person immediately, no matter what, right? I understand that. But again, guns drawn. Why? Yeah, that makes zero sense. Absolutely,
the question is not so much whether or not somebody goes out to check on them, because in any scenario, if the person is talking about harming themselves, I don't see anything wrong. I don't think anybody would say, don't check on the person who's talking about committing suicide. I think the issue is how they do it. It's like most things. It's how you do it. My mom used to say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. In this case, it's not what you do, it's how you go about it. Guns drawn is a problem. I don't even know why they had guns in the first place. I mean, maybe they're looking at it as she's had military training and we don't want to go into, the house with. But again, that goes to the whole thing of just knocking on the door. Jesus Christ. I mean, we have a violent culture. This is immensely problematic. Guns should not have had any role in this at all.
Yeah, oh, totally. And there's also another thing in this article. They mentioned the statistic that if you suffer from mental illness, you're more likely to have a deadly encounter with police forces.
Well, that's because cops don't necessarily have any skill at de-escalation.
None. No, they. I mean, and we see it time and time again. They shoot first and ask later, and it's. I mean, I think that there should be. I think there should be more emergency health services professionals that respond to something like this, that know how to deal with something like this, versus the police. I think in situations like this, the police will only make things worse.
It's almost as if they use a club for all situations. You know what I mean? It's like to a hammer, the entire world looks like a nail. Well, you're sending a cop to do a job that's more inclined for somebody in the psychological field. And I would say there are a few things. I had a conversation with Jordan yesterday. He was talking about the lead water in Flint. That's not just Flint, though. I mean, when they did tests, it was all across the United States. What effect does somebody drinking lead water, what effect does inadequate access to the things that those people need? What is the effect of not necessarily having nutritious foods? What is all of those effects as it kind of digs within the society itself? For that matter, what is even the effect of working a job that you absolutely hate day in and day out under stress? They're talking about this opioid epidemic. I guess I'm making a point that it goes beyond just hiring more cops. And if you're trying to deal with the issue, I think you need to deal with the issue on the other side, in addition to the flip side, meaning at the bad end where somebody is going to that person's house, that's kind of the emergency scenario. But the other end where you're trying to negate or lessen the number of people who will be in that situation in the first place. I guess if that makes sense. It's both ends.
It totally makes sense. And, we have a nice transition here because Platypus tweeted this out. And this is from the Austin Monitor. New data shows lead in drinking water at 5 more Austin schools. Keep in mind, what's going on in Flint, Michigan is absolutely terrible.
But it's all over.
It's not just in Flint, Michigan.
Chicago was another place. Rahm Emanuel buried that study. Rahm Emanuel thought he was being slick and say, I'm going to show how awesome Chicago is. They find all of these contaminants in the water in Chicago, and Rahm Emanuel buries the study. It's not just Flint, unfortunately.
It's 278 zip codes have effective water that we know of so far. 278 zip codes have water that is not up to snuff. Lead has been found in the drinking water of 5 Austin public schools. New data obtained by the Environment Texas from the Austin Independent School District shows it's the second time in the past year the toxic metal has been discovered in Austin schools and facilities. The tests have revealed lead at levels considered especially unsafe by the American Academy of Pediatrics and certain taps at Boone and Patton elementary schools, Bailey and Covington middle schools, and Lanier High School. Exposure to lead in children can cause irreversible cognitive and behavioral problems. After the drinking water crisis in Flint, Michigan pointed a spotlight on lead contamination, Austin also decided to test the water.
Wow.
And, typically you find a pattern with this. Usually they decided to privatize things at some point. They cut corners. There's something going on like fracking.
Yeah.
And that's how this stuff comes into play. And that's how this stuff happens. And I don't know how we can't get that basic lesson that you can't mess with water.
No,
I mean, our bodies are like 90-some% water. You can't mess with water. You can't cause environmental destruction and ask questions later. You can't go against peer-reviewed science and ask questions later. When it comes to water, it's too high a risk. I mean, you talk to anybody in the science community about what the oil and gas companies are doing and what are, and they laugh about it because that's the only way they can stay sane. Because they know this stuff, and they're just like, it's even conservative scientists, like scientists I know that are conservative leaning politically. When it comes to the environment, they're like, oh yeah, we're nuts. What we're doing is absolutely nuts. It is insane what we're doing. I don't know if we're going to be able to get better from this. Like it's nuts. We are literally a walking virus, and it's coming to this end. We had no stewardship whatsoever. And I'm not one of these like total idealists. I understand that we're going to have some environmental impact for humanity. I'm totally understanding of that. But that doesn't mean you throw away any type of scrutiny whatsoever, which is what we've done. I mean, we're pretty much making our Earth a playground at the expense of our drinking water.
It's weird. And
weird is one way
cynical.
To put it.
I don't think they care, if that makes sense. I think you look at it as
long as it's not in their backyard, they don't care.
Right. It's not my backyard. It's the separation of the people who are making decisions from the people who are affected by those decisions, either from the policy standpoint or the business standpoint. Like, because if you look at media acts as if, these are good, honorable gentlemen running these corporations, and as if, the M&M is actually this little chocolate morsel that dances on a screen, and that this is some kind of family. It's not. It's sugar and fat and all this other stuff. It's diabetes. It's the social impact of the things that they do is felt at a lower end of the economic scale, in which case that lower end of the economic scale is almost completely invisible from the standpoint of the spotlight of the media. I mean, after all, you could fix that issue, but you wouldn't be able to spend $1 trillion on the military. And it is very important to spend $1 trillion on the military.
Oh, absolutely. When people talk about jobs and this, I'm like, look, we spend more than the next 13 countries combined on our military. If we slash that budget, we'd still have way more than what we need. And we could invest in infrastructure. We could invest in healthcare. We could give tuition-free college.
Well, the military is a jobs
we don't want to do that.
It's a jobs program. I mean, ultimately what it is, you're talking about spending like $1 trillion. And the wild part about it is when we spend $1 trillion, and we always talk about other countries, being militaristic and having military parades. I hate to tell people that spending $1 trillion is a military parade. Whether you have the actual military parade or not, it is a military parade, knowing that everyone spends their money. But people assume that just because you spend that much, that you're getting that much value for the money that you spend it on. Look at healthcare. We spend.
Well, no, we spend more than all the other industrialized countries, and we're
worse off.
When it
we're
comes
like 30 something.
Well,
I'm making the same point about military.
Yeah, well, with military, we have people that are powerful, and this isn't the people in the military. The people in the military are mostly people that had no other option because they were being crushed by an economic system,
or they believe in something,
or
they have certain beliefs. Yeah,
no, totally. But in most cases, it's these people at the top, the really powerful people, the intelligence agencies, the people that really have the ear of our government. They think in the economy of war. They think in terms that you and I can't even imagine, because to them, war is just an economic opportunity. To quote Smedley Butler, to them, war is a racket. So it's like, where are we going next? Where can we exploit? What minerals can we get? What resources can we get? And that's why the intelligence agencies don't like Trump. They don't dislike Trump because his policies are morally repulsive. His policies are just Republican policies. They're fine with Republicans.
Yes, I keep saying
Trump
that.
policies are just Republican policies. He is no different than any other Republican, except he lacks subtlety. That's it. That's the only difference.
He's dishonest.
Yeah,
like he's honest in a weird way. He's honest in regards to what he represents.
He's accidentally honest. And what the intelligence agencies are worried about is that he'll say something dumb that's really going to take the mask off. That's what they're scared of. That's why they don't like him.
That mask is already off.
It is. Well, to people like you and I, it is. To the general populace, I would say no, it is not. Nowhere close.
Fair enough. I mean,
to people like you and I, yes. To people watching this, yeah. But to the general populace, abso-freaking-lutely not. You go up to the general person, I'm going to go vote, now. And I bet if I go up to a lot of people and I say, are you worried about the military budget? They're going to, I think a lot of them will be like, oh, is that, I guess maybe that's not right. I mean, I think a lot of people, our media never talks about it. So
no. Wait. It does. It just doesn't talk about it in terms that would ever lower the budget, if that makes sense. Like it's always talked about in these kind of glorious, like Trump fires a missile strike. And that's a perfect opportunity.
Oh yeah, they celebrate.
Is that legal?
They celebrate war, but as far as the budget, they don't talk about. I mean, we just gave them how many more billion just as a bonus. That wasn't even talked about. Most of the Democrats went along with it. It wasn't even talked about in the media. I mean, you got to go to independent sources like your show, like my show, like the Jimmy Dore show, like Lee Camp. You got to go to independent sources to even hear about stuff like that.
It's aggravating.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Ultimately, we're talking about killing people. That's what we're talking about, essentially. And there's another point that you made that I think is awesome. You said we can't fathom how they think. And I often try to tell, my mom when her and I are talking about this stuff. And
I can tell you have a good relationship with your mom, and that's great. I have a good relationship with my mom too. I have a good relationship with my mom.
Her and I talk about this stuff sometimes, like politics. She is.
Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah, you.
But she even like I try to get across to her that because she's my everyday person, if that makes sense. Like she's my link to the rest of the world. From
how often do you guys talk?
We talk all the time.
All right, so like every day, you and your mom chat it up.
More or less, yeah.
That's awesome. And I mean, dude. I used to talk to my mom more. I'll let you make your point in a second here. But we're talking about our moms. This is very important.
Go for
it. No, I used to talk to my mom more when I was on the road full time. So I'd be in the car for like hours on end. So I would call my mom, and I don't get to talk to her as much these days, but I still talk to her a good bit. So anyway,
for the longest time, her and I used to talk all the time. We have a close relationship, and my wife and I are planning on traveling within a month or two, and so we didn't necessarily want to get a full lease of a year. If we were going to travel, because we either had to break the lease or wait for the lease over with. And I got to be honest, I kind of want to go. And so we want to go from place to place to place. So my mom has it upstairs that she's not using. So we end up moving up here. So she loves it because her kid is at home, at least for the next 3 months before they go. My wife and her get along fabulously well. And it's a little awkward because, I haven't been at home for like 20 years or so. But it's fine. But nevertheless, I talked to her about this stuff and kind of making this point to her, how you perceive the world, how you think of the world, and how most people think of the world when they go about their affairs. You may have somebody at work that you're annoyed with, but ultimately you don't think your boss is a killer, or you don't think your boss is plotting on your life. But you get to the upper levels of the military and you're talking about war planners, people who are talking about murdering large number of people who are talking about putting people in black sites and torturing them. This idea of right and wrong doesn't exist. I mean, ultimately, it's cause and effect. We want to get this person and we want to put this person in a black site and torture this person. Now, to the everyday person, they have a hard time fathoming somebody behaving in that way. So, that level of moral fuckery doesn't apply. I'll give you another example. Obama paying terrorists in order to undermine the Syrian government. Now, when you tell somebody that, it should stick in their throat when you say it. Paying terrorists, the president of the United States, the guy who was singing, Amazing Grace, that guy? Yes, that guy was paying terrorists. That stuff, when Reagan did that, there was a scandal. When Obama did it, nothing. Like that stuff gets... Our media is weird, man, in the way that, in the things that they, the things that they emphasize versus the things that they don't. And
they have an incentive to keep us tribal. They have an incentive to be pro-war, and it goes into their ownership. It goes into their agenda. So they are all of those things. Yeah. They give us this hyper-partisan bickery to make us seem like we have a choice, to make it seem like we have a choice, and to kind of keep us distracted. You know, who's the #1 personality right now? Rachel Maddow. Who's president? Donald Trump. When Obama was president, who was the #1 personality? Sean Hannity. What Sean Hannity provided was catnip for people that hated Obama. What Rachel Maddow provides is catnip for people that hate Trump. And it's a shame she went that route, because Rachel Maddow used to be one of the best journalists on MSNBC.
I used to love her show.
I used to, you know what I like to tell people? I used to refer to Rachel Maddow as the diamond in the rough. Now when I see a segment from her, I go, ow, that was rough.
Yeah.
She has done a 180, and that is an understatement, and it is such a shame.
I don't think it's a 180. Believe it or not, I don't think it's a 180. What I realized, I
used to
hit my head on this thing. There's an episode of True Blood, where I don't know if you watch True Blood, but there's an episode of True Blood. Okay, so one of the guys is he has a shapeshifter. He has a capacity to be a dog. Sam was this kind of like lovable character. Everybody thought it was, oh, it's cute. He has this puppy, and he loves Sookie. And then later on 3rd season or something, he murders a guy and throws his body in the river. You're like, oh my God, he just murdered a guy. Now, did Sam change? No. Our point of view of Sam changed. It looks like from a relative perspective that Sam and the personality, in this case, Rachel Maddow, has shifted. Rachel Maddow hasn't shifted at all. Rachel Maddow was just a Democrat. When Bush was in office, she could be as lefty as she want to be, and she could attack Bush like nobody's business, and she could be accurate with the facts because Bush was a horrible president. And now that Obama took office, well, not so much. Not talking so much about the drone stuff, not talking so much about the 80%, enshrining Bush's tax cuts in the law. And even at the end of Obama, makes this argument that Obama succeeded in his hope and change. Now you have Trump, and now she's going back the other way.
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe 180 is a bit much, but compared to where she was, even as recent as 2014 and 2015, compared to where she is now, I mean, she wasn't afraid to cover stories that were not as emphasized by most corporate outlets. She was kind of the only one pushing a lot of stories. And she was somewhat critical of Obama. Was she overall a little soft on him? Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. I mean, but
look at the interview between her and Clinton.
Compared to what
she is now. She's the Democrat. She has Clinton, the softest interview, like cotton soft, like the softest cotton that you could ever procure. It's like carried on the back of versions from the Nepalese, And at the very end, Rachel Maddow asks Clinton a critical question. And she says, look, the Clinton Foundation, if you're going to be president, are you going to keep the foundation? I mean, this looks a little dicey. Ultimately, you're getting money in one end, and yet you're in office. This looks problematic. Are you going to keep it?
And in fairness to Rachel Maddow, most people would be scared to ask that question.
Now, here's the catch, though. Clinton said, essentially, no. Right. I'm doing God's work, and we're not doing squat. We're not changing anything. And Rachel Maddow said, okay. And she just moved on.
And that was it? She just moved on? All right. So, yeah, I mean, no, totally. I take your point, and I'm not trying to I'm just saying compared to where she was in 2014, 2015, compared to now, huge difference.
Ron, I guess what I'm saying is it possible that what you're saying is difference is your relative perspective of how do you make a difference between her changing versus the political landscape changing? Like your perspective of her makes it look like she's moving. Like if you're on a train and you can't necessarily tell the train is moving.
Because I feel like if she was the Rachel Maddow of 2014 and previous, I feel like she would be talking more about policies. Yeah. She would be talking more about what this Trump administration is trying to do.
Yeah.
Because, she opposes those policies. But she would be talking more about that as opposed to Russia, Russia, Russia.
Do you think she believes it, or do you think she's just let me ask you this: why do you think she's doing it? Do you think because there are two
ratings
models? Do you think
ratings?
I
think she's a Rhodes Scholar. She is no dummy. She is smarter than both of us combined. She knows exactly what she's doing. Well, she's smarter than me. She's smarter than me.
No, listen to what I'm saying.
I said both of us combined because it's like, Jamal, if you're up here, I'm down here, so I would bring you down with me.
Whatever.
So that's why Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow's very intelligent. She's very intelligent.
She's very bright. Yeah.
Yes, and so she knows exactly what she's doing. She knows how it's working. She understands all that. She knows the fiddle she's playing, and she's fine with it. She doesn't care. And hey, whatever. What can you do? But what I'm saying is a couple years ago, that wasn't the fiddle she was playing. Maybe she always wanted to play that fiddle. Maybe at first she was like, man, I'm cool being in the rhythm section, but I want to be the lead guitar player, even though I have to throw my integrity out the window to play that lead guitar. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with playing lead guitar. I just made a music analogy for no reason. But
sympathy for the devil for the moment. Sympathy for the devil.
I'm not having, this isn't sympathy.
No, I'm talking about me. Is it possible that she thinks Donald Trump is a clear and present threat? Like, for example, I suspect that Bernie Sanders probably thinks Donald Trump is a clear and present threat. I think it's one of two things. Either she's doing it for ratings, either she thinks Donald Trump is terrifying, or she's a Democrat and she's just a hack who's essentially has an idea of what the network wants, and she's pushing this thing of a career.
I think it's a little bit of all the above, but I think she also knows what's buttering her bread, so to speak. I mean, I think that, you know, the statistics are out there that when you hit Trump on policy, when was Trump doing the worst? Trump was doing the worst when people were really hammering what the AHCA actually did. It was an anti-healthcare bill.
Yeah.
Because that's what the right has to do. Because when you have a right-wing healthcare plan, which is what Romney Care was, which is what we got,
yeah.
What do the Republicans have to do to outright that? Well, they have to have an anti-healthcare bill. They have to have a healthcare bill that strips healthcare away from people, which is what the AHCA would have done. So that's simply all they did. She knows that she knows that hammering on policy would be the key, but she chooses not to because it's not as good for ratings. It's not as good for giving people the anti-Trump catnip that her audience needs. And she knows that her audience is a niche at this point. The average MSNBC viewer is 68 years old. Yeah. People are fleeing cable news in droves. Yeah. And it is a sinking Titanic. So they're just going to ride that gravy train out as long as they can. She used to be the person that I would argue gave a hoot about journalism. I don't think that's the case anymore. Was she always more establishment than you or I? Abso-freaking-lutely. Did she always play the Democratic game more than you or I? Abso-freaking-lutely.
Oh, yeah.
But from a journalistic standpoint, was she a lot different in 2014, 2015, and prior versus now? I would say, yeah, big time. And it's a shame seeing what happened with her. Yeah, so anyway, we got to move on. We got to move on. But all right, so this is about the war on drugs. Ending America's war on drugs would finally unleash the therapeutic potential of psychedelics. It was only after U.S. veteran Jonathan Lebecki pulled the trigger on a loaded gun aimed at his head and it misfired that he finally decided to seek help. He had tried to commit suicide 5 times after struggling with PTSD. This is a result of 12 years in the Army. Like many ex-servicemen with mental health issues, he went to the Department of Veterans Affairs. So there was this study, and it was sponsored by the nonprofit research and educational organization, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. And it was funded entirely by private donations, I'd imagine, because this is not the easiest research to conduct.
No, but it's supposed to work.
Yeah. So they did using psychedelic drugs. They treated this person.
They've done a few tests like that, where they would use either mescaline. They would use there would be some people who go to the jungle for ayahuasca. And their experiences are mind-blowing. I mean, some people talk about meeting these machine entities while they're in this kind of while they're psychonauts, as they call them. But they found that people with these kind of PTSD, for whatever reason, somehow it helps the illness.
Well, in the author of this article, by the way, a quick aside here, the author of this article, Rick Doblin, who is also the founder of MAPS, he was at the Oslo Freedom Forum that Jimmy Dore was at, and Jimmy did conduct an interview with him. So that interview will be coming out on the Jimmy Dore show shortly, nice. I believe.
I would love to hear that one. I mean, that should be amazing. Yeah,
so
the psychedelic stuff has been fascinating. Like, they've gotten into research from, like, one of the books that I had, the guy was talking about the thing in your brain, oh God, what is it? The pineal gland. Talking about the pineal gland being this kind of proxy to the soul and all this other stuff. It's fascinating research some of these people get into with this. But I've heard the PTSD stuff with the mushrooms or with psilocybin, or it depends on what they're using, but I don't know what they're using.
Yeah, well, the thing is that if you did more, research on it and you did more controlled studies, you could you could control the dosage in a way that it's not going to be damage causing and stuff like that. So it's totally something we should be utilizing.
Absolutely.
But because of this archaic drug war, and it's so funny because when it comes to cannabis and the drug war, public opinion is so far disconnected from what our leadership says. It's unbelievable. And it's because of big pharma's hold. And I mean, the drug war, I still argue, I would say the American drug war is the biggest propaganda success story maybe in the history of this country.
Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
Nixon, blacks and hippies.
I mean,
hey,
it's
you know, the sad part
well,
about
it goes back even before that. It goes back to even the 30s, and it goes back to reefer madness. You know, they wanted to criminalize pot because there were other pharmaceuticals that they could profit off of better. You know, racism has something to do with it. They hated the fact that Mexicans were using it and having a good time. They hated the fact that black people were using it and having a good time. They can't have that in the United States. So they got to make this a Schedule I drug, which it still is to this day, which means it is as bad for you as heroin.
Even as a black, mind you, he had one of the things that annoyed me about Obama was the you know, Nixon did this for blacks and hippies. This idea of using this kind of political gamesmanship to say, all right, we're going to attack both of them because they were scared that both of these units were going to kind of come together, liberals and blacks. And they use pot as a way to castigate both, where they could lock both of them up. And then every night kind of say, look at these, you know, dangerous people using these drugs and, you know, it's a danger and everything else. The guy who was with the Nixon administration came out and said so openly, like in, I think it was Harper's Magazine. Now, you're an African-American president. You're supposedly a liberal president. I mean, they act like Obama was, you know, like a progressive.
Well, Obama was a moderate Republican by his own admission. Obama said it. He's like, I am a moderate Republican. He said that towards the end. Obama, and I don't know how you felt about Obama out the gate. In 2008, Kucinich was my guy. I got behind Kucinich. When Obama won, I got behind Obama because I thought, well, this is the moderate that we need. And in fact, the day Obama, I turned to my girlfriend at the time, and I was happy Obama won, you know, especially after 8 years of Bush. I voted for Obama twice. And I turned to my girlfriend and I said, this is the moderate that we were going to get right now. This is, you know, where we're at.
No, you thought it was the moderate out the gate. See, this was before my political awareness. I was still I had just gotten back from travel. I wasn't in the best of health. And I remember watching the election. And I saw Jesse Jackson bawling his eyes out. All of these people were so happy. And I was like, I took the hope and change line. I
took it to a degree too. I mean, I knew we had 8 years of this fringe right government.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was pretty hopeful there was going to be some change as well. And I certainly expected more than we got. Did I ever feel he was going to be our FDR? No, he wasn't. I mean, if that was ever represented in his platform, I never saw it. I mean, I always thought Obama campaigned on a center-left platform. He delivered a right-wing one.
It was the rhetoric.
So he was definitely to the right of the platform he delivered. But nonetheless, his platform was not all that progressive to begin with. He wasn't for single payer, which was why I was behind Kucinich and not him. That was one of the big reasons. The all the above approach on energy, I wasn't a big fan of that. Yeah. Of course, he all the above just meant keep on drilling, baby.
Right. Just keep doing what you're doing.
That's what he meant by all the above. He forgot those other things that were supposed to be all the above. But anyway.
It was rhetoric. That's what it was.
Well,
I mean, you know, you're screaming. He knew that the public was looking for something fundamentally different. And so Make America Great Again and Hope and Change are just the same thing cut for two different sides. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. No, well said, man. All right, so we got
scream Hope and Change into a mic and people believe it. They get disillusioned with your party when you don't necessarily deliver on the hope and change that you've screamed at the top of your lungs into a mic. So.
All right, so we got some super chats here. Platypus says they won't tell you what chemicals they use for fracking. Love you both, and thank you for bringing us the truth. You're absolutely right. They don't tell you. It's kind of like in energy drinks where they just have one of my vices is I am kind of a sucker for energy drinks. I really try hard to stay away from them. But every now and again, if I have a really long drive, I'll get a Red Bull or a Monster. I am really not proud of this. But when you look at the ingredients on the back of it, there are certain things that just kind of have a symbol. And when you read the fine print, they ain't telling you what's actually in that shit. No. They're not telling you. And that's fracking fluid. We don't know what all is in it. They don't disclose everything. There's a few little asterisks. They don't even tell us what the hell's in this shit. So Platypus, you're right. Thank you for pointing that out. Balthazar, I fear the water crisis will only be stopped when New York City's water supply gets screwed over by fracking. Once you screw over 10 million people, Balthazar, I hope it doesn't come down to that. But you might be right. I mean, I don't know when that would happen. I know I'm pretty certain they have a drilling ban as of right now there, but we'll see. And he adds, it's so funny that MSNBC talks about corporations don't control HRC's actions through donations when there are commercials every 5 minutes. I'm mad. The power is still in the hands of the providers. Look at what the GOP bill banned, single payer. It's the only thing they're scared of. Amen to that. All right.
Well, they know that if you pass it, they're not going to ever be able to get rid of it. That's what they did. They understand that when you have a program.
That's why they gutted the public option.
Well, right. But they know Social Security, Medicare, if they will be held to pay if they tried to take out those programs, because those programs work and people love those programs. If you had single payer and people could actually see, holy shit, I don't have to pay money at the point of contact, they're going to love it. They're going to absolutely love it. You're never going to be able to take that program away. And it's government in action where you're making this argument that government works, which is the argument that lefties make. Government works when you put people in government who cares about making it work.
Right.
You know, it's the same reason for all intents and purposes why they hate Sanders, if that makes sense from the Democratic standpoint. If you show them, the argument that Democrats have made assiduously is we're as far as you can go. We are the party. We are the left. We're the definitive left in this country. Bernie Sanders comes up and says, well, no, I can run on a different platform. And the fact that I can raise money in this way, $220 million, shows that what you guys are saying is false. This works. You can do it. You can represent the population in this way. The problem with this is he shows them to be a folly. Him just standing there beside Tom Perez or the other Democrats makes him look bad because he clearly means what he's saying on this stuff. They don't. It's that same reason. It's almost like the same thing for single payer. Republicans can't allow single payer to take effect because it shows that everything they've been saying up to this point has been folly. In the same way that Democrats can't allow somebody like Sanders or somebody who's to the left because it shows that their original positions were folly.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're pretty much out of time here, man. So let's end by talking a little bit about the primary. And is there anything that you're real excited about in your state in Virginia? I know one guy you guys have that I am trying to keep an eye on is Justin Santo-Petro. Are you familiar with him?
I am not. I haven't seen.
He's an interesting guy. I like what he's about. He's very, very progressive.
And what is his name? Justin
Santo-Petro. It's
Santo
Santo, no, Santopietro. I'm pretty sure that's the spelling.
I'm gonna try to.
He's really good, and he's you should totally have him on. He's very progressive, but he delivers this message in a way that I think the heartland will listen, if that makes sense. And
it does.
And I really dig his approach, and I think he's the type of person that can really kind of bring populism to the heartland, similar to the way Bernie Sanders was doing and succeeded at.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, I often think, I don't think we're as divided as I think people think that we are. Like,
we're totally not. I mean, yeah. I travel, I used to travel 40 some weeks a year. I still travel a lot. I'm going to the South later this month, and I used to live there. And we're really not that different. And people are really susceptible. Or not susceptible, that's the wrong word, but people are very open to a true populist message.
Yeah.
I mean, the true populist left is the only thing we have that can beat the establishment. Yeah. And that's the only thing the establishment is scared of. So that's what they want to stifle at any opportunity. That's why the Democrats, their first priority is stopping progressives. Yeah. Their second priority is pleasing the donors. Their third priority is maybe winning an election or two.
Yeah.
And that third comes in distant third. I mean that the Democrats, their third priority is winning. That's their third. I mean, let's underline that. Their third priority is winning. And I will argue that with anyone. Their third priority is winning. Why did Tom Perez go endorse Andrew Cuomo over Cynthia Nixon after he said the DNC was going to remain neutral? If you were concerned about winning, wouldn't you just let the voters decide? Yes, you would. But he's not concerned about winning. His first priority was, let's stop this progressive with all of our power. Let's do everything we can to stop this progressive. Let's do that. Then we're going to try to police the donors by stopping that progressive. And then we'll see if Cuomo can beat a Republican. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But that's priority number 3.
I think a lot of this stuff boils down to the belief that you have nowhere else to go. I think that's the argument. Oftentimes, I think they make the argument to blacks, Hispanics, to labor, and essentially says we can do what we want because at the end of the day, are you going to let that maniac take the helm?
So here's, in closing here, somebody made another reference for me, and here let me try to get back to this, and then I want you to plug all your stuff, please, Jamal, too. Okay. But someone said, Ron, how soon is now? Which is a Smiths reference, and I just got to say now is right now, because as soon as I log off here, I'm gonna go vote, and I'm not gonna vote out of fear. I'm gonna vote for the people I want to see win, because to quote Eugene Debs, I would rather vote for something I want and not get it than vote for something I don't want and get it. So Jamal, thank you so much for joining me today. Please use the remaining time to plug your shows and where people can find you.
Absolutely. No, man, Ron, I so appreciate you bringing me on. I had an awesome time. I love this. This is an awesome format.
Come back, man. This is how we do things here. The people, and we did not get to a lot of your articles today because me and Jamal are pretty chatty. So I apologize to everyone. We did not get to your article. We didn't get to most of them. I do apologize for that. I'm without my help. Pasta had a family matter that he is dealing with. We wish him all the best. He'll be back soon. I've been in contact with him, but I don't have the help I usually have. So I've had to do the administrative end all on my own. So I apologize. I didn't get to as many chats or as many tweets as I usually get to. But I hope you guys understand. Jamal, where can we find you?
That's my fault. I'll take the hit for that. I'm a chatterbox. My audience at this point, they know that I kind of.
Well, I'm worried you and your mom aren't going to have anything to talk about today. That's
all right. So
tell Jamal's mom I said hello. I give my best, and I hope you guys can still find stuff to talk about today. I feel like I hugged it up.
We always have stuff to talk about, or at the very least, me talking at her about something. So a Patreon account, the Progressive Soapbox on Patreon.com. Also, my channel is called Jamal Thomas, JamarlThomas. On YouTube, a search will bring up my content. And that's a space between those, Jamal Thomas. And that's pretty much it for plug. Oh, Jimmy Dore is going to be on the show at in 30 minutes. In fact, 27 minutes on my channel. So, you know, if you guys are open to see this kind of nobody on my show, he'll be there. I'm saying nobody. I'm being sarcastic. Jimmy Dore is fucking awesome. I love the guy to death. So that's pretty much it for me.
Thanks so much, man.
I love the Eugene Debs one because it's right. It's any political strategy that takes into that says I'm going to consistently vote for the least worst ends up getting essentially it absolves. It allows a gamesmanship. Meaning you have two parties. You only have two parties. If you're going for the least worst, the guy who you just voted for is going to be doing things in that office. And you end up in this gamesmanship where they just consider we just need to be least worse than the other person.
Well, I'm not voting for any of those people, and I suggest you don't either. I'm not. I'm going to vote today, and I am excited about every single candidate that I'm casting a ballot for, and I'm voting for the people I want to see win. I don't really care what the establishment's telling me. I don't really care about the "but Trump" argument. I'm voting for the people that I want to see in there. I'm voting for peace candidates. I'm voting for progressives with a history of getting things done. Right. And I'm excited to go do it. Jamal, thank you so much for joining us. We are completely out of time. You guys know the drill with me, RonPlacone.com. June 20th through 24th, Graham Elwood and I are touring the Southeast, Nashville, Huntsville, Asheville, North Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia. Get your tickets at RonPlacone.com. Please, I'm excited to see everybody, and I hope to see you in one of those cities. Also, Patreon.com/RonPlacone if you are so able. Hey, if you want to go to one of those Southeast shows, if you're a patron of mine, you get to go for free. That's what happens when you're a patron. You get free show tickets and a bunch of other cool perks. So Patreon.com/RonPlacone, a pay-what-you-can level. And that's a fun time. Also, one more quick announcement here. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking with Anomaly, a guy that I'm not super familiar with, but he is apparently he was a big Bernie guy, and then he went over to Trump, and he's a musician and he's an activist. People have told me he's controversial. I looked at his Twitter feed. I didn't see anything that I would label controversial. I saw some things I didn't agree with, But that doesn't make things controversial just because I don't agree with it. But anyway, we're going to chat, and I'm going to see how this goes. Some people have requested that I chat with this guy, and I said sure. So we're going to chat, and we're going to see what kind of common ground we may or may not have. So tune into that. That's tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Jamal, thank you very much. Everybody, get out and vote if today's your day. Peace.